Hello, my name is Nicole Knutson, and today I'm going to be telling you guys about moral disengagement within society and its correlations to stress and greed and any other outside triggers. So a few weeks ago, I came across an essay written by Albert Bandura, a very famous psychologist, called Selective Moral Disengagement and the Exercise of Moral Agency. I then gave a speech about its context, and to sum it up, Bandura's essay did an incredible job at stating how moral disengagement occurs in many different types of situations. He also explained how people are able to get away from making immoral decisions guilt-free when they are swaying from their moral compass. Bandura pulled a lot of examples from throughout history to emphasize how and why moral disengagement occurs. It gave a lot of context into his essay. After reading and understanding Bandura's essay, I became very intrigued with the psychological aspects of moral judgment and the act of disengagement. Specifically, I had questions about how moral disengagement affects brain chemistry, and does moral disengagement have effects on a person long term, such as guilt, or considering the strategies that Bandura mentioned in his essay, does a person not feel any grief for their wrongdoing? Specifically, I wanted to focus on the moral judgment in children and how if children are around moral disengagement from a young age, if that then in turn affects them later in their life. In the end, I decided that focusing on children development and their moral compass was a little too specific, so I went in a different direction and I chose a more broad topic. I decided to do my research on how panic and greed affects one's moral decisions, both long-term and short-term. So there were many sources linked to panic and bad decision-making, and many examples from throughout history that showed how greed and only looking out for oneself affected a person's moral decisions. And because, like I said in the beginning, I initially was very interested in the psychology aspect of moral disengagement, I decided to also bring that into my essay as well, or my paper as well. So I decided to look at the psychological changes in the brain that a person goes through during times of panic, and seeing how greed affects humans as well psychologically. And all of this was necessary information for me to get the information about moral judgment. Now that I talked about what inspired my topic and how I changed my ideas, I will discuss more about what I discovered. I introduced my paper by explaining our current situation, the COVID-19 outbreak. I discussed what has occurred because of the pandemic and how people are losing sight of their moral compass because of panic and stress and any of those triggers. In order for the reader to understand the issue, I defined what morality is and its importance in society. I also explained specific strategies that Bandura mentioned in his paper. So according to Stanford Encyclopedia of Psychology, the definition of morality can be described as a code of conduct that, given specified conditions, would be put forward by all rational persons. I went on to use quotes from numerous articles and essays, including my panel presentation, the Bandura essay, to highlight some key points for the readers to focus on throughout the paper. I divided my paper into 3 sections. First, I described the psychological aspect of panic, stress, and greed, and how it all plays a role in everyday life. From the beginning, like I said, I knew I wanted to incorporate a psychological aspect, and by using the brain studies during intense times, evidence was shown as to why people make unethical decisions. The second part of my paper was specific events when moral disengagement occurred in panicked individuals. I discussed 2 separate events when Uber increased prices significantly during times of crisis. Because of the lack of judgment that occurred in individuals, companies such as Uber had more opportunity to capitalize on innocent people and get more money and just take advantage of the situation. My third section was about examples involving greed and how that causes individuals to lose sight of their morals. I focus on the idea of acceptable risk and why certain companies or individuals take part in those risks, even when they are morally wrong. The two examples I used in my paper both showed cheating and lying in order for one to gain more wealth or get out of necessary work, and that is obviously very morally incorrect. Finally, I concluded my paper by emphasizing the different aspects to this problem and paying close attention to the extreme scenarios that moral disengagement can cause. There are a few ways to control your moral compass and to control the panic and the stress and the greed that all goes on in one's mind, and that includes practicing mindfulness. Some of the tactics are meditation, deep breathing, relaxation, reflection, and any other techniques such as those. Without the control over our conscious mind, humanity as we know it would not exist. Taking the steps to stay away from moral disengagement and helping others around us will benefit our society more than we think, and it is very crucial for our society. All in all, I was very interested in learning about all the different times in history that moral disengagement occurred and moral judgment was not utilized, and really understanding how common of an occurrence it is, from wars to company scams to neighbors just not looking out for each other. It was interesting to see how fragile our society is and how much we really depend on agreeing about our morals universally, even when not discussed. Thank you.